Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about parallel lines now when they're cut by a transversal. And this is part 1. Okay, so when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, what are all the relationships that are formed? And what does that mean? Well, here's a picture on the right-hand side. We also have to keep in mind what we learned about vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles are angles that are across from each other like 5 and 7, and they are congruent. Linear pairs are adjacent angles that form a line, like 1 and 2. 1 plus 2, angle 1 plus angle 2 should equal 180 degrees because it's a straight line. So keep that in mind as well, as that will help us today. Okay, so the first thing is we learned last time about corresponding angles. Remember, corresponding angles would be like 1 and 5, or 2 and 6, or 4 and 8, or 3 and 7. And now that the lines are parallel, these two lines that they are cut are parallel, the relationship is a little bit important here. We want now those corresponding angles are now going to be then congruent. So all of the ones that we just talked about, angle 1 and angle 5, those are going to be congruent to each other. So that would be one example. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Okay, now 2 would also be congruent to 6, 4 would be congruent to 8, and 3 would be congruent to 7. So that's one example there, though. Okay, also, the other relationships that we talked about are also congruent, or at least some of them are. Alternate interior angles are congruent. So an example of that alternate interior would be like 3 and 5. Those would be congruent. And 5, yeah. Okay. We also know that alternate exterior angles, we know what those are, and those would be congruent as well. So alternate exterior might be like 1 and 7 or 2 and 8, but I'll just go with angle 1 is congruent to angle 7. These are just some examples. And then the last one is same side interior. We talked about those. And same side interior angles are not congruent. They should be supplementary. And if you recall, supplementary means they should add to 180 degrees. So same side interior angles would be like 4 and 5. So if you do this, it should be angle 4 plus angle 5 should equal 180 degrees. So that's the only one that won't be congruent. They should be supplementary. So that's important to keep that in mind. And when you look at them, you can tell they're not congruent. They look different. So that's kind of a quick check for yourself. Okay. So we're going to use this now when we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, 8 angles are formed. If they give you one of the angles, you should be able to figure out all of the other ones. So let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to take this picture. We know that measure of angle 1 is 65, and all of the other ones we're trying to find. So let's see if we can do that. I like to label it on here. This is 65 degrees. I'm going to make 10 a little bit smaller. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. So these are across from each other, and then this is 65 degrees as well because they're vertical angles. So we know that. We also know, so I'm just going to put that in my drawing right over here. That's 65 degrees. I also know that angle 1 and 5 are congruent because of corresponding angles. So I'm going to put that there as well. So I know that this is also 65 degrees. Maybe I'll just zoom in here a little bit. Oh. Okay. Now, I know that 7 then is also 65 degrees because that's a vertical angle. So, there we go. Now, I know some already. Now, if we can figure out some other ones, we are good to go. There's a couple of different ways that you can go about these, and none of them are wrong. You'll probably get there either way. You could say, well, I know that angle 5 and 4 are supplementary because they're same side interior angles. So you could figure out what angle 4 is. You also know that 5 and 6 are a linear pair because they form this straight line. So you could also figure out what that is as well. So however you want to get there, it doesn't really matter. So let's just say, since we're trying to practicing some of these new relationships, let's just say we know that 4 and 5 have to be supplementary. So let's try to do that. So we know then that 4 has to be 180 minus 65. So that's 115. So, okay. So now we have that is 115. I'm just going to write it in here. This is 115 degrees. Well, that's going to be helpful. Let's write that over here because now we should probably be able to figure out everything else. This is 115 degrees. We know that this is a vertical angle. So this is 115 degrees as well. Okay. Now that might not be the only way we could get that angle, but that's just one idea. Another thing that we can look at is that angle 4 and angle 6 are alternate interior angles. So these should be congruent to each other. Okay. Now you could also get 115 because now 2 and 6 are corresponding. So however you got to angle 2, it's fine. Either way it works. And then here they want us to give our reasoning, which I have been saying out loud but not writing. 115 degrees. And then across from angle 6 is angle 8. So these two are vertical angles. So this should be 115 degrees as well. Okay, so now we know all of the angles. So again, how you get there, we kind of talked those out. But angle 2, however you got there, you could say, well, these are a linear pair to angle 1. I kind of went in a different way from there. But again, just make sure that you're clear about how you're getting there. You should be able to find all 8 though. Okay. Let's try this one. And again, I'm going to talk out the reasoning, and hopefully that makes sense to you as we go. All right, so we know that angle 6 is 142. I'm going to use a different one here. This is 142 degrees. Okay. And then I want to find all of the other ones. So it doesn't really matter how you decide to do this. You could say, I know 3 is 142 because they're alternate interior angles. To angle 6. That's how you'd write it out. I'm just going to talk it out, so hopefully that will be more a little clearer for you. You know that angle 1 is across from angle 6, so that's a vertical angle. So that's also 142 degrees because it's a vertical angle to angle 6. So I like to write it in there, 142. There we go. Okay, now we need to find some other ones here. Well, we could do 8. We know that 6 and 8 are corresponding, so let's fill that out as well. 142 corresponding, they have to be congruent. Okay, so let's write it in here too. All right, hard to write with these. All right, now 2 and 3 are supplementary. So I know then that 180 minus 142 is 38 degrees. So that means angle 2 is 38 degrees. Okay. It's 38 degrees. And then I can figure out that's because they're same side interior angles to angle 3. And then I can figure that 5, or I could do 7, however you want to get there. So angle 7 would be 38 degrees as well because they are alternate interior angles. Okay, and then 5 and 7 are corresponding. So I now know that 5 is also 38 degrees. And then the last one, angle 4, is 38 degrees because they are alternate exterior angles with angle 5. So that's how you're doing those, explaining it as you go or writing your reasoning if you're on a worksheet, but making sure that you can understand and explain your thought process. Okay. We're going to do a couple of other ones that get a little bit harder, and I just want to make sure that these make sense. So example 3 is the same thing. They're just trying to give you, make it a little bit harder by putting another parallel line. But if 2 lines are parallel, then if you have another one that's parallel to that, all the relationships are going to stay the same. So 5 is 82. Let's see if we can squeeze this in here. This is 82 degrees. Okay. So then I know that angle 4 is 82 because they're corresponding. I also know that 6 is 82 because it's corresponding. So I can put that in there. So 4 is 82 degrees and 6 is 82 degrees. All right, now, what else can we do? Well, we know that 7 is 82 because it's alternate interior angle, and that means 8 is also in the same alternate interior to angle 6. So we have angle 7 and angle 8 are also 82 degrees. Okay. Now, we know that angle 9 here should also be 82 because it's a vertical angle and vertical to angle 6 right here. So that would be angle 9 is also 82 degrees. Okay. All right, so the ones that we're missing are 1, 2, 3. So let's see if we can figure this out. So we know that this and this angle form a linear pair. So we can figure out that angle 1 is 180 minus 82, which would be 98. So angle 1 is 98 degrees. Okay, that makes 10 98 as well, because they're vertical angles. And then 2 and 10 are alternate interior angles, so 98 degrees. You'll noticing a pattern, there's really only 98 and 82 here. And then 11 is a vertical angle to angle 2, so that is 98 degrees. 3 and 11 are alternate interior angles. And then this is vertical, or corresponds to these two. However you want to think about that, that should be 98 degrees as well. So a lot of angles, right? But still doable. And I drew a lot of things on here, so maybe that made it a little confusing. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, I want to do another one. Let's try this one here. Okay, so it says if the measure of angle 12 is 121 degrees. So let's see here. 121. And the measure of angle 6 is 75 degrees. Find all of these other ones. Okay, well, let's see if we can do that. I think we can. So really you just kind of want to see what do you have. Well, you know that 1 and 6 are vertical angles, so we're going to say that's 75 degrees. Okay. All right. Now, I also know that this right here, 5 and 6 together, should be the same as 121 degrees. So if I put those together, I should get 121. So if I go 121 minus 75, that'll tell me what 5 is. So I just say, all right, 121 minus 75, I get 46. So I know that angle 5 is 46 degrees. So let's see if we can squeeze this in here, 46 degrees. Okay, so that also then means that, well, we got this as 75, I guess I could label that. That means 2 has to be 46 degrees as well. So let's write that in. And now we got to figure out what this is. So the easiest way to do that, I guess, is to say, well, or one of the ways to do that is to say, well, I know that 75 plus 46, 75 plus 46 gives me 121. And so what do I have left over? If I go 180 minus 121, that gives me 59. So this angle 3 is 59 degrees. And again, that's because the 3 angles should add up to 180. 1, 2, and 3 should add up to 180. So this is 59, come on, there we go, degrees. Okay, so that makes angle 4 59 degrees because these are vertical angles. And then angle 7 should be 121 because it is a vertical angle or it's a same side interior, so it should be supplementary with angle 4. However you want to get there, I like the vertical angle. It's a little bit easier. So angle 7 is 121. Okay. We know that angle 8 corresponds to angle 3, so this has to be 59. Okay, so 8, and that would also make 11 59. Okay, this is 59. All right, so then in here we have a triangle. Now, in the middle here, you can see this triangle. So a triangle, the 3 angles in a triangle, if you remember back in the day, they should always add up to 180. So 46 plus 59 gives me 105. So that means angle 9 has to be 180 minus 105, which is 75. Now, another way to think about that, that's just one way to do it. Another way to think about that is that these two angles, 6 and 9, are alternate interior angles. So that is 75. That might be easier, but whatever works for you. Okay, so angle 9 is 75 degrees. Okay. Angle 10, well, we know, I guess we could do, these two are a linear pair, so they have to add up to 180. So 180 minus 75 is 105. And then that gives us the rest of it. We know that if 10 is, if this is 105, then that makes 13 105. 14 and 9 have to be the same, so this is 75. So this is 105 degrees, and 14 is 75 degrees. And we figured them all out. All right, so that is working through those and just taking your time and using all the relationships that we know about, that we've learned about, and then previously with vertical angles and linear pair. I would encourage you to give this problem a try. Press pause and see if you can fill out everything here. Then you've really got this down. All right, hope this is making sense. Take care. We'll see you later.